Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching Gring, the Political Vigilante making Gotham great again. You know, it's. I like hearing good news. I like hearing about wins. We don't get a lot of them as lefties, especially now, especially living in the dystopian hellscape that is the death cult of the United States of America. Joe Biden is awful. Trump was awful. Obama, awful. Bush, awful. Clinton, awful. You seeing a pattern? So everyone that wants to vote out Biden, great. If you want to replace him with a Republican, it'll only get worse. Like these two parties are horrible. When will you wake up, America, to the fact that I wish America would wake up like Colombia has done. Colombia just voted in a lefty, but now I had to go to some indie media to find this. The American media is calling him a guerrilla, lefty terrorist, narco terrorist. They're calling him a drug dealer, like anything in the book, rather than say, oh, the Colombians were tired of a handful of oligarchs ruling their country and just letting the United States do whatever it wants. So lefties just got voted in overwhelmingly. The sum of 500 years of resistance, Colombians make history by electing the first leftist president. 500 years. Massive celebrations swept the streets and main squares of Colombia last night as news broke that the country had just elected its first leftist president, Gustavo Petro, and the first black vice president of the country, Francia Marquez. The historic PAC coalition, Petro and Francia's political movement, won this historic race by capturing 50.44% and beating out right-wing millionaire. Oh, the millionaire lost. It's funny. I'm going to show you in a second. They called the lefty, they call him a narco terrorist. But the right-wing millionaire gets better coverage. Gee, weird. Weird that the corporate media in the United States is more supportive of a right-wing millionaire. It's weird. It's almost like we're doing that here on a daily basis. Businessman Rodolfo Hernandez, who trailed by more than 700,000 votes. Images and videos circulated throughout social media and the press showing the resilient will of millions of Colombians from all regions of the country mobilizing for change despite fear, campaigns, and remote polling stations. Sound familiar? Oh yeah, and the districts they know we're going to vote left, they made it hard. They closed polling stations. Like they just it's weird. In our country, the Republicans do that in the general elections, and the Democrats do that to progressive districts in the primaries. That's how Joe Biden won. They cheated. One video showed voters from remote areas in El Choco traveling in small boats on a 2-day journey to reach the nearest polling station. Tells you two things. One, how these people were like, I'm voting. When that's the thing. And this is why in this country, it's so hard to get a real lefty, while they will do everything to prevent a real lefty, because they know real lefties work for the people. Real lefties support the working class. Real lefties that's why people will go on a boat for 2 days. All the Bernie rallies I was at, they were packed with all different walks of life. That little burn bro thing was just bullshit. That was sexism. It was just a bunch of white guys. No, it was people of all ethnicities. A lot of people of color who were completely felt abandoned, and rightfully so, because the Democratic Party has abandoned them. Look at when somebody really fights for the people will show up, man. And it also tells you another thing, which is they deliberately kept polling places out of regions that they thought would vote for the lefty. Weird. Purging the voter rolls in New York and California in the primaries. That sound familiar? Anybody ever heard of that in the last 2 presidential primaries? No, I'm making stuff up. I'm all drunk. I mean, Susan Sarandon has brainwashed me, so I'll just do whatever she says. I'm crazy. But what's significant too, going back to this Choco region, Colombia's first black vice president, Francia, an environmental and social justice hero in the region. Choco is a mineral-rich department of Colombia where Afro-Colombians make up more than 85% of the population and are the biggest victims of death squads and displacement by transnational mining companies. Weird. You see what they're doing? And we talk about, Lee and I talk about this in Government Secrets. This is what America does. This is what is in Smedley Butler's book, War is a Racket. He said he was a high-priced button man for big corporations. That's why we will send the CIA using American tax dollars to stage coups, to murder people, to assassinate people, anything for big corporations. So the people in Colombia had it. They finally rallied and got it because they had a real lefty, not a fake lefty, a real one. And the vice president is a black woman from that area. And that's what they do. That's what these big corporations do. They send death squads. They just, you're an environmentalist. I mean, I watch Democracy Now! On a fairly regular basis, and they do a lot of neoliberal crap. And they're like, "Oh, Ukraine, Russia, bad. Joe Biden is hero." Like, they do a lot of neoliberal crap. They won't call out the war machine under Obama. They won't really go after the Democratic Party hard. But one thing that Democracy Now! Does is they talk about a lot of Latin American, Central and South American countries and activists and how they're targeted, murdered, killed. They just flat out kill them. And so that's one of the things this victory was about. These mining companies just want to plunder the land, and people are like, it's bad for the environment. It's bad for our way of life. It's causing whatever ailments. The same old story. It's the same old story. But how are these people depicted in the Western media, in the American media, right? This is a big victory. What does The Economist have to say? A former leftist guerrilla wins Colombia's election. Guerrilla. So he's just some psycho living in the jungle, shooting hardworking Colombian, like leftist guerrilla. The Economist said this. Look at the Miami Herald. This is what the Miami Herald said, which has a huge Colombian population. I think one of the largest Colombian populations in all of the United States is in South Florida. This is the Miami Herald. Florida concerned about Petro's election in Colombia. It's disastrous, says DeSantis. This is what idiot DeSantis says, who is a dumb jackass. The results of that election have been very, very troubling for people who believe in freedom in the Western Hemisphere. So his version of freedom, just so we're clear, is allowing mining companies to kill environmentalists who are getting in the way of them plundering the land for profit. Just that's DeSantis and basically American, Republican or Democrat view of what freedom is. And they're banking on that you, Americans, are not paying enough attention. So you'll just read the Economist or and go, oh, some lefty guerrilla narco terrorist it's going to be bad. It's a threat to freedom in the Western Hemisphere. So remember now, the freedom that you have in America, you have the freedom to go bankrupt because of healthcare costs, because we have a for-profit healthcare system. You have the freedom to let the banks buy off politicians so that they can force 6 million people to go through foreclosure in the 2008-2009 housing crisis, which we're going into another one right now. We're starting a new recession. You have the freedom to let the Federal Reserve, which is not a federal organization. There's nobody elected in the Federal Reserve. It is an illegal banking cartel that was started in the 1920s, print money and protect the powerful. You have the freedom to let oil companies make gas $5-6 a gallon. It's $120 a barrel right now for gas. Back when gas was $3.50, a gallon, it was $127 a barrel. So the price of the barrel of gas is not, it's all manipulated. So you have that freedom to get manipulated by a handful of rich people. You have the freedom to vote for two corrupt parties, Republican or Democrat, that are bought and paid for by everybody on Wall Street. The banks, the big pharmaceutical companies, big tech. You have the freedom to have your vote mean nothing. That's the freedoms we have in America. You think you're free because you can go to Walmart or Target and buy whatever you want. You think that's free, but even then you can't. You have the freedom to live in a country that supposedly is the greatest country in the face of the earth that doesn't have enough baby formula, that has had empty shelves at numerous times in numerous cities through this last 2 years of the pandemic. You have the freedom to allow the police to just shoot you and they won't be held accountable. The cops can just bang into anybody's door right now in America. And there's not much you can do about it unless you're really rich. But you notice the cops don't just kick down the doors of billionaires' houses. That doesn't happen. They show up and serve a warrant and go, hey, will you come out nicely? These are all the freedoms you enjoy in America, right? You have the freedom to let Joe Biden sign more drilling permits on public lands in his first year in office than Donald Trump did. You have the freedom to let your tax dollars go to fund a proxy war in the Ukraine. You have the freedom to get denied health coverage because you don't have insurance because you can't afford it. I just want you to know what all your freedoms are in America. Isn't it great? I mean, isn't it just, I'm drunk on all that freedom, right? Isn't it amazing? You have the freedom to let the NSA and the private intelligence community monitor anything you're saying, and there's not much you can do about it. You have the freedom, thanks to Obama in the National Defense Authorization Act and the AUMF, to allow federal troops to just arrest you at a protest rally. That started under Occupy Wall Street, the Occupy movement. That's when Obama did that. And Trump kept that going. Yeah. Isn't it great? You have the freedom to watch 4 presidents from both political parties waste $3.5 trillion in 20 years in Afghanistan that replaced the Taliban with a more heavily armed Taliban because they got all our weaponry after we pulled out. You have the freedom to live in a country that does that. You have the freedom to live in a country that shuts down RT America because they don't want a different point of view during a war. You have the freedom to watch the show on my YouTube channel, which has been demonetized since February 1st of 2021. Isn't that freedom? They took away a huge revenue stream from me on this show so that they hopefully to shut me up. Isn't that, I feel free, right? Isn't it great? Don't you feel free that the federal government can just seize your assets in a bank if they don't agree with your statements? They can lock up journalists like Julian Assange. Isn't that feel free? Isn't that freedom of speech? You have the freedom to choose between Fox or MSNBC, between Coke and Pepsi, between McDonald's and Burger King. Those are your freedoms. And if you want anything more than that, shut the fuck up. Stick your fat, dumb head back in your cell phone. Go swipe right on whatever dating app or whatever Snapchat or social media platform you're on. And there's your freedom. You don't get any real freedom. Shut up, America. Let's go back to this. The results of that election, this is DeSantis, have been very troubling for people who believe in the freedom of the Western Hemisphere to elect a former narco-terrorist. He's a narco-terrorist. What does that mean? He fought drug dealers? And a Marxist to lead Colombia is going to be disastrous. So if you're of Colombian descent in South Florida, he's trying to get you scared to make your vote. But you're going to call your family back in Colombia and go, no, everyone's excited about this guy. Unless you came from one of the rich oligarch families and you've got European features, then you're probably not happy about these people getting elected. See how it works? But here's a little stat that Ronnie D forgot to mention. The United States is also Colombia's largest trading partner. Bilateral trade between the two countries reached almost $27 billion in 2017. Florida accounts for 27% of all U.S. trade with Colombia, more than any other state. Oh, I'd watch yourself, Ronnie D. Colombia might go, nah, we don't want to do business with you anymore because we actually are going to spend money on our citizens. What? I know that's a foreign concept. I like living in a country where my government, I have the freedom of having a government that doesn't care about me. And I have the freedom of knowing that when the Republicans are in power, they don't care about me. And when the Democrats are in power, they don't care about me. I love that kind of freedom. Here's the horrible narco-terrorist Marxist platform that these people ran on and won with. They ran on a progressive platform promising to tax the rich. Uh-oh, there goes the freedom. Increase the budget for education. Uh-oh, you mean they don't just spend money on war and bombs in Colombia? What the hell kind of freedom is that? And create a universal public health system, among other much needed reforms. Gee, don't you wish the richest country in the history of the world gave you free healthcare, especially in the middle of a once in 100-year pandemic? You're not free here. You're free to die from gunfire, right? You got that freedom in America. We don't have Medicare for all. We don't even have $15 an hour as a minimum wage, which even $15 an hour is like nothing. And $15 an hour won't buy anything in any of the major cities like San Francisco, New York, Chicago. I mean, it's just the cost of living in the big cities, LA, it's too expensive. One of their other points that these narco-terrorist Marxists wanted, one of the main points of their campaign was to achieve genuine peace in Colombia. Oh, that sounds like those Marxists always wanting peace. So freedom means we're in a constant state of war. We outspend the next 12 countries combined while our own citizens literally starve to death living on the streets or neck deep in bank debt. But you have the freedom in America to work 3 jobs and barely get by. You have the freedom to have a full-time job and still live in your car because you can't afford rent. That's freedom. That's real freedom in America that they don't have in Colombia. They want to achieve peace in Colombia by upholding and strengthening the 2016 Havana Peace Accords, and at the same time challenging right-wing paramilitary organizations that for decades have enjoyed complete impunity to spread terror and violence on behalf of the elite. Oh boy, those Marxists don't want to be terrorized by a bunch of thugs hired by oligarchs. Oh boy, Marx. Fully. This is a big win. And DeSantis and the oligarchs and the Economist and the Miami Herald can suck it hard. Let's just hope the U.S. State Department doesn't greenlight the CIA going down there and doing whatever. One of the other things that's in this article, too, I forgot to mention, Colombia wants to reach out to Venezuela now because they're going to finally recognize Maduro, not Juan Guaido, CIA puppet. They're going to know Maduro's the real leader. Wasn't it funny? We recognized the puppet, Juan Guaido, and then when we suddenly needed oil because we've painted ourselves into a corner in this proxy war with Russia, then Joe Biden calling up Maduro going, "You're our president. You're the real president of Venezuela. Can we have some oil?" So Colombia, which shouldn't be plundered by transnational mining corporations, should take care of its own citizens. It's a novel concept that we don't do in America. Trump didn't give a shit about you. Biden doesn't give a shit about you. Obama didn't. The Bushes don't. The Clintons don't. They don't care about you. They don't care about you at all. They don't care about you at all. At all. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth. This is a big win. Wouldn't it be great if we had a real leftist win? I'd row a boat for 2 days to vote for a real leftist in America. You're damn straight I would. But we haven't had one. The closest we got was Bernie. And Bernie in Western Europe is a centrist. And Bernie just capitulated. You cannot win. You cannot reform the Democratic or Republican parties from within. It's not possible. And they're afraid of leftyism, which is why all of these union victories and all these Starbucks and Amazon, it's beautiful. Wherever you're at, working in America, unionize it. You work at a McDonald's, unionize it. You work at a Trader Joe's, unionize it. Amazon, unionize it. Target, unionize it. Lowe's, unionize it. Get a union. Stick it to the capitalists. Get real wages. And shave your knuckles for justice.